Hello everybody. Welcome to my video where I will rank all the books I read this year in a tier list. Um, so I hope you enjoy, and my radiator turns on at some point in the video, so hopefully it's not too loud. So yeah, thank you for watching. So up first we have Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer. This was a book that I enjoyed. I wasn't prepared for it to be as directionless as it kind of is, but I think once I settled into that fact and I braced myself for what was to come, I did enjoy myself a bit more. It was a good time. There were some more abstract moments, sort of like stream of consciousness parts that were kind of cool, but the straightforward prose, I guess, just sort of resonated with me more because when it was being straightforward, I thought it was very, very cool, and I liked the vibe. I think I would have preferred a more straightforward novel with a beginning, middle, and end. So I will have to leave it in B for now. Here we have a book called Play It As It Lays by Joan Didion. Book was good. The story was good. She's just sort of similar to Tropic of Cancer, I guess, except she's not really bumming it. She's just sort of sad and for her own reasons. But I don't know. This book didn't really click very much with me, and I'm having a hard time deciding between B and C. But it was I'd say it was like an above. It was like a good book, so I'll put it in the B. Uh, Man, I feel like everything's gonna end up in B. Well, that's a spoiler alert, but this one will end up in B. This is um, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. This was a good book. This was the story of an autistic boy in London or somewhere in the island across the sea of Great Britain or whatever. Um, and he like sort of takes it upon himself to like investigate the death of his neighbor's dog, but it sort of turns out that it's like none of his business, and it involves like a lot of personal intrigue and stuff, and it's all sort of like too big for his world. Um, Not that the story goes anywhere like crazy. If anything, I felt kind of underwhelmed in that regard, but I don't know. I thought it was good. There was like chapters where it moves along, the story moves along, and others where he sort of stops and he sort of like explains some math problem or something. And I don't know. I thought the perspective was very unique to this book, so I'll give it a B. Moving on, we have The Crying of Lot 49. And this one um, is hailed to be like a postmodern masterpiece or whatever, but I didn't like this one. Um, this I guess I don't know, to the unlearned reader, I guess you could tell there was some artistry in there, but it just went over my head. It seemed like I don't know. It was dense. What I did get out of the story the whole time, I was just sort of asking myself like who gives a shit? Like she's like concerned about this like mailing thing, and I guess it's kind of cool the idea of some big like conspiracy that like is like right under your nose, and the sort of absurdity that it's just like male, so it doesn't actually matter. Maybe that's part of it, but I don't know. I'm not like a snarky like guy. Like I feel like I'm not the kind of guy to like appreciate that kind of snarkiness. I don't know. Whatever. There were parts I liked. I liked the psychiatrist guy. I thought he was pretty funny. But this gets a solid C, or maybe not so solid because it's in C. So that's that. This is The Great Gatsby. I guess it probably shouldn't be here, considering I've read it before. But this is The Great Gatsby. Needs no introduction. I mean, it was, it's The Great Gatsby. It's a good book. You can rely on it to like sort of please you. And it was good. I don't think I finished it in high school, so I mean, I knew what happened at the end, but I didn't read it myself. I just sort of like learned through sitting through class. I guess it goes here. I don't know. Well, I guess it's sort of ruined by how much it's talked about, but whatever. Goes in B because it's just like a book. Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger. I think this is the year that I came to realize that J.D. Salinger is one of my favorite authors. And before you, call me cringe, I don't know what I'm going to say. Whatever, I don't care. I like J.D. Salinger. I like his characters, and I like how the characters in this book were all like little snotty like New York, like Princeton people. And they're just like being really intellectual to each other, and it has some like some themes that I will say mostly went over my head, but I guess the idea of being lost, just sort of your belief systems just being shaken, their foundation being shaken. I guess that's, I don't know, it feels pretty universally resonating. So I'll leave that up here because I thought it was really good. It was really short too. It's like a nice breezy thing you can read. The Pearl by John Steinbeck. The Pearl by John Steinbeck is not very good, I will say. The story is not very exciting. To me, it doesn't really say anything very interesting. I will say that the ending, like the last 20 pages of this short little novella, are very good. As in, there's like an action scene, and like he like shoots this guy down from like the little cliff he's climbing up, and he falls into the little puddle. I thought that was really cool. I was like, I don't read a lot of action, but that sort of got me like thinking like there might be something there that I understand why you would read something by like, I don't know, some bullshit like Tom Clancy. I don't fucking know. Anyway, this was pretty boring. This will stay in C. So I don't know. This one sort of it was, well, you'll see, but I experienced a sort of downward slope in terms of the quality of the Steinbeck books I read this year. So that's a bit of a spoiler, but The Pearl goes in C tier. That's all I have to say. Moving on, we have Atonement by Ian McEwan. This was an A tier book. I really like this one. So the book is about like this little girl who like witnesses her older sister and this other guy sort of witnesses their like romance sort of coming to a head, and she misinterprets things, and she misinterprets them, and then she misinterprets some other bullshit, and then she kind of fucks up everything. And so I thought it was a pretty scary thing to think about, like doing some bullshit in your childhood and just messing up everyone's life, and then just sort of living with that guilt. I thought it was really cool. The first half of it, where it like takes place in their really fancy mansion in England, was very nice. It was like jumping around with the perspectives. But then all of a sudden, like the middle 80 or 100 pages is turns into a World War II narrative. And I guess it was like okay, but I didn't find myself enjoying myself. It was one of those things where the characters are on like a path and they're walking somewhere. I never enjoy those. I find those really sort of lame. I find those kind of boring. I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know. In this case, it was boring at least. Yeah, I don't know. The novel picks up after that, but it never seems to get as good as the first half. But I don't know. I think as a package, Atonement sits right there in the A. It was very good. Very good. Joan Didion, The Year of Magical Thinking. I think I will stay away from Joan Didion from now on because she's like, I feel like she's kind of overhyped. I feel like she's just, I don't know. I don't know. I I don't find, I don't like her writing, I guess. She seems very like, she seems like a smart lady, but she seems kind of smug in her smartness. I don't know. She goes here, which kind of sucks because this is a book about her husband dying, but you're dead too, and also you would never have seen this video, so I don't even know why I brought it up. Anyway, she goes there because I didn't really care for it too much. Dubliners by James Joyce goes, I think I was about to put it in C, but then I realized how crazy that would be. This goes in B tier because some of these stories, this is a short story by James Joyce. Some of these stories are very good, but at the same time, some of these stories are very boring. I remember there was one that was like politicians in the room talking, and that one was really, really boring. I guess I'm not matured enough in the things I have read to really enjoy this kind of stuff to its fullness. But there were parts I liked. I liked the one with like the kids like run away from, like they skip school for a day. I thought that was cool. I don't know. Didn't get too much out of that one, but I guess I can appreciate it like a little bit. I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because I didn't really get this one at all. This is The Body Artist by Don DeLillo. But I'm going to put him in A tier because something about it. Honestly, I think it was just like one line that I read in there. I thought it was really cool. And honestly, like, I kind of forgot most of what happened in this book. It's really short, but I don't know. I don't know. I like Don DeLillo. I don't have to say anything more. So he goes in A tier. So next we have John Irving. John Irving with The Hotel New Hampshire. This is another B tier book. This is a family odyssey where the focus is on a family through their trials and tribulations. And it was a good, entertaining, happy little story with themes and characters and storylines that get tied with little bows at the end. So that was a book I read. Okay, so I included some Shakespeare's, and they're coming up. Let me just move them all together so I can get these out of the way. So I read these for a class, but let's put read with big quotation marks. So maybe they also shouldn't be here. But fuck it, I'll put them up anyways. Othello, the story of the general man who is like killed by Iago because he's like jealous. I guess I'll leave this in B. I'm starting to realize these probably shouldn't be here, but whatever. Merchant of Venice, this also goes in B. This one this one I read all the way to the end, and I read it on a plane. And I thought being on a plane was helpful because I could just focus on this. And it was sort of like watching a movie, because what is a play but a movie? What is a novel but a movie, really? I don't know, whatever. And then here's Richard III, which I will place a step higher because I really, really, really liked the opening monologue by Richard III himself. I thought it was really cool, and I can memorize like the first 10 or so lines from it because I like it so much. I'm guilty of skimming quite a bit of this one, so this is a double parentheses read book of mine. But I don't know. I guess the parts that I remember were really cool. Next, we're moving on to American Psycho, a very famous book, which I will have to leave in the D tier. It's going to be our first D tier of the night. I did not like American Psycho. Yeah, I don't know. Reading the book itself, it's very gross, and there is a point to it all, I guess. But I don't know. It didn't really impress me. I always thought I don't know. It feels like the sort of thing like anyone could come up with, like, oh, like it's a book about social commentary, but it's really violent and gruesome, but there's a point to the gruesomeness. The gruesomeness is it's the social commentary of the world and the 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 capitalism and the whatever and things. And not to say that there's no merits to this book. I especially like there's like a few moments towards the end where he really starts to lose it that I kind of liked. Um, but ultimately, this is the kind of thing that you could stick to the movie and honestly have a much better time. I would recommend the movie a lot more than the book. I think the book is not very good. Next, we have Donna Tartt's Secret History. Apparently, Donna Tartt was a contemporary of Bret Easton Ellis. They were friends. Or probably still are. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to put this one in S tier, I thought. Or, I don't know, maybe A tier. I'll put it in S tier for now. This was a very good book. It's sort of, I don't know. I thought it was really cool. I just like the atmosphere and I like the characters. I liked how each character in that little friend group has a very distinct personality, and some of them are less developed. Like I remember, I think his name was Charles, who was like the brother of that the brother of that one girl. They were like twins. I didn't think he was like a standout or anything, but I remember Francis being really cool, and then the really tall guy, whose name I think was Edward, was really cool, and I don't know, it feels really cool. It's sort of like it's pretty scary to put yourself in the shoes of the main character. Just be like the fringe friend who like finds out that all the people he's hanging out with are like psychopaths, but he's like so fascinated and sort of socially deprived that he just like can't help but like gravitate towards that circle. I thought that was cool. I think this novel definitely peaks in the middle, and then everything they like after they do the grave deed. After they do the grave deed, everything after that, it sort of peters out in terms of tension, and I didn't really understand what the motivations were of Edward at the end. Yeah, I don't know. It was cool. I really enjoyed that book. I think as a package, it's very good. And here's a little side note: the rival book club at my school, they rated this a 2 out of 5 stars online on the Goodreads, and this one really pissed me off. Something about the review really pissed me off because it said, "Oh, as readers, we were expecting a dark academia aesthetic with blah 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 blah," and it's like, wow, you went into the book for a TikTok aesthetic or whatever, and then when it turned out to be like an actual book, that's what pissed you off. I don't know. I feel like I turn into like a book snob whenever I think of those that club. Anyways, I think this one's called Too Far Gone. You can't see the title. This is a memoir by Sierra Leon author, Ishmael Ishmael Ba. And although his story is very harrowing and tragic and sad to hear about, I didn't think the writing style was like especially, amazing or anything. It seemed like he sort of didn't really know how to string together his story. Because there's like, it does like the very like tropey like book thing where it's like, we're like with like a really artificially placed flashback where nothing to indicate the flashback happens, and then all of a sudden it's like, I remember in my hometown, and then I was with my grandma, and then she was telling me a story. And the worst part is that it does this at the very end, and at that point I was really struggling to understand the point of it. I mean, the flashback, that the final flashback was cool of itself, but it felt kind of unearned. Like, I don't know, like what was how did that tie in? So I'll leave this here. I mean, it's a cool tragic story, and it gets you into the mind of a boy soldier, and it must have been really hard for him to write, and not to mention experience. But this one was didn't really do it for me. Next we have On the Road by Jack Kerouac. This was a book that I will say the book itself was kind of, it's very repetitive. I will say that On the Road is more exciting to think about and like sort of picture in your head like the exciting like journey of it. Like imagine, oh man, if I did that myself, that would have been like, that would have been the craziest thing. But I don't think although Kerouac is not a bad writer, I don't think he does enough things with like the way he tells a story to earn it anything higher than C tier, which is kind of a letdown. Because I don't know, I think about this book a lot, and I really relate to the sort of yearning to explore the world and do some crazy bullshit. But I don't know, I think Kerouac kind of let me down on this one, and I think a lot of it has to do with how straight he plays it, in terms of like, it seems like he just writes verbatim what happened to him, instead of taking any kind of artistic license and just going off on, anything interesting that like actually might have happened. In any case, it goes in C tier. This is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is the story of a tragic girl who's just like, the circumstances of her life lead her to go insane, and all kinds of terrible things happen to her, and I can't remember everything, but this one didn't really wow me too much either. Seemed like a lot of misery porn, if you ask me. Not to say that people don't experience miserable things. I don't know, something, it wasn't that crazy for me. It seemed like a very like high schoolish book, like first day of class, AP literature or whatever, and they're like, okay kids, on the syllabus we're reading Bluest Eye, so everyone buy your copy of Bluest Eye. Which I don't know, maybe I don't know. It didn't resonate with me on the level that it seems to affect other people. So I'm sorry to say, but you'll go with I'll leave it here, but as I said, we can always revise these things further. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. This is a book about people in a mental institution, and then all of a sudden this guy comes in, and his name is McMurphy, and he McFucks shit up, and he makes things a lot more interesting. This was like I don't know. This was just like okay. I don't know. I thought the best part of this book was McMurphy, but I don't know. I didn't really care for the villain. I didn't find her very like exciting or menacing, and I don't think the things that happen in this novel are written about especially like crazily well or anything. Nor are they very interesting. So I'm between a C and a B, if I'm being honest. I feel like I gotta do some revision. It's kind of honestly turning into a pile of whatever. Anyway, let's move on to The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I forgot his first name for a second. So Cormac McCarthy is the author of this beloved story about a guy and a boy on a road and walking for 300 pages, and everything is gray and everything is dead and boring and sad, and you want to kill yourself the whole time while you're reading it. He wrote that book, and this was a book that my dog really enjoyed, meaning I woke up one morning and it was like ripped to shreds. But luckily, the half of the book that I was still reading, that I hadn't finished, she didn't touch that part. So I got to finish it. Luckily, I guess I don't know. I mean, I guess whatever. Old Man in the Sea. This people dick ride this book. We'll call it God's Gift to the Green Earth, and I will say that it's a nice short story about a guy who goes fishing and he catches the fish and then the sharks come. But I mean, as boring as that all sounds, he's like the better part of this little story is him just sitting on the boat and like thinking about how like calm and serene the waters are. All of that is honestly pretty nice. He's just sitting there and chilling. Whoops, not there. So I'm between a B and an A. I'll put it in an A. I guess it's hyped up for a good reason. It's not a bad read. I'm coming to realize that I don't feel as strongly about the things I read as I thought I did, because a lot of these are sort of interchangeable. I think I need stronger convictions, but I can't muster the whatever. 9 Stories by J.D. Salinger I really liked. Obviously, in a short story collection, there will always be ones that you like a lot more than others, but this one was mostly very, very good. And I will say that I think my favorite was Dear Esme with Love, and I thought that one was very nice. And it's going up top with the other J.D. Salinger. Let's put them next to each other so they're nice and happy. So there we go. It's I don't know, good short stories. That are very simple, but you get the sense that there's a lot of there's deeper thought going into them. I don't know. Next up, we have The Hours by Michael Cunningham. This is not good. It's like a 3-person split narrative, and it's about 3 different women in 3 different points of time, and their stories are seemingly unrelated, but there's probably some deeper meaning that he is getting at. But I mostly found this kind of boring and fake deep, and kind of pretentious. I could imagine him like at his typewriter or something, sort of smiling to himself, like thinking, "Oh, this is so whimsical and so exciting and so fun." But in reality, it's really just another book that sort of gets off on its own quaintness. Like, oh, isn't it nice to sit around and look at things and appreciate the moment? It's like, yeah, whatever, dude. Yeah, okay, I could sit in a chair and do that same thing. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I did not like this book, and it'll stay there. Next, we have another shorty. This is Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis. I read a lot of classics this year, which I always like to do. I wanna read. I'm trying to read all the classics. Anyway, Franz Kafka. This was like this will go in B because it's like a short story about a guy who turns into a bug, and he's like crawling around, and it's really gross, and it's kind of sad. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know. I guess I appreciated it for just like the straight story about a guy turning into a bug and thinking about, whoa, how weird would that be? You know? So that goes there. Next we have up David Foster Wallace with his brief interviews with hideous men. And I'm not going to waste time on this one. This one goes in A. This was a good book. This was a book by Mr. David Foster Wallace. It's a short story collection. So I thought it was very cool. Very, very interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was cool. And I will say I skipped one of these stories, but only because like I looked ahead and it was like 20 pages of just random he was like writing as if he were like a medieval like jester person or something, and I just couldn't get through it. It was like yeah, it sucked. Anyway, here is Steinbeck, East of Eden, which I will put in the A tier. Right here, it's a family odyssey about these guys who I believe grew up in Connecticut, but then this one guy goes to California to start a new life. So he's establishing his life there, and he has two little sons who are struggling with, being good people and all that. And some of the dialogue is pretty like not very believable, like in terms of that doesn't feel like a thing a real person would be saying, but I don't know. It was a good happy little story about starting a new life and trials and tribulations and whatnot. I don't know. This is one that's interchangeable between A and B, but since there's less in A, I will put it there, and that is that. Next we have William S. Burroughs' Junkie, which is a book about William S. Burroughs injecting junk, which I believe is heroin, or maybe it's something else, into his vein like a million times, and it's really disgusting. Thankfully he spares you a lot of the details in terms of like the actual like needles and stuff, but it's still very gross. And you sort of get into the headspace of what it's like to be like addicted to junk, as they call it, and what it's like to be living in that headspace where you're always just counting down the seconds to your next hit. So it's pretty scary. It feels like it could happen to anyone, which it definitely could. And it's all the more scarier for that. And just like the very straight way he tells you like the horrible things that he's done. I mean, it's like a quote unquote novel, but sort of very thinly veiled excuse to just like straight up tell you this is the terrible stuff I've done to get my hands on heroin, including like robbing people, like sleeping drunk people on a train and just like running around town. And yeah, it was pretty horrific, but it was good. It was like, yeah, it was a good story. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. But I think I will say that I think eldritch horror is just not my cup of tea. I like it when a writer like makes an attempt, when like the thing, I don't know, there's just too much unknown in this sort of brand of horror, and too much like left up to the imagination, that I have so much free reign that I don't really know what to do with it. I felt like all the characters in this book were just sort of not actually characters, but just vehicles to move the plot forward. Um, there was, I don't know, I just didn't find it very compelling, and I didn't think the movie was very good either. I just thought the writing was very flat, and I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. And this is like like it's a short book, but not like, feels like nothing happens, and she spends like the majority of it just walking at a breakneck pace, just walking and walking. There's no answers to any of the questions. It's just questions that it raises. It's the whole time, and I don't know. The movie also sucked. I don't know if I mentioned that, but bears repeating. I did not like the movie either. Okay, so here we have Murakami's Norwegian Wood. I don't know if this is a C tier or a B tier. I don't know. I didn't find like the romance is very good. I mean, I like the vibes of just walking around Tokyo with like a lady and just talking and stuff, but I don't know. This one didn't really click for me. I guess that would indicate that it goes in the C tier. Next, we have a separate piece by, what is his name? Well, I guess it's for the better because I did not like this book. A separate piece was not a good book. It was a book about a boys' boarding school, and this kid hanging out, and it's one of those books where the speaker is not really the main character, and the main character is like some other person, and I didn't think like any of the things that happened in this book were interesting. There's like a big like puffy um thing at the end where the guy who, something Knowles is his name, John Knowles maybe, is the guy who wrote it. He's trying to like string together what the point of all this bullshit was, and there really kind of wasn't any point to the bullshit that was going on. It was, I don't know. This was terrible. It was terrible. It was not written very well, and the spoiler alert, the main character just dies for no reason, and for me it had little to no impact. Yeah, fuck it. It was not good. Not my cup of tea. Libra by Don DeLillo. This was another book that belongs in the S tier. Along with The Body Artist, which I talked about earlier, it's something that also went way over my head, and I'm just now realizing this video is 46 minutes long and no one will be listening to what I'm saying right now. Anyways, Don DeLillo writes Libra, and it's about Lee Harvey Oswald, the guy who killed JFK, and he endeavors to put himself in those shoes, and sort of it's like a biography thing about this guy, but it's also at the same time trying to speculate what actually was the motivation behind JFK's assassination, and I thought it was really cool. So a lot of it went over my head, probably both because the writing is dense and because I don't have enough, I guess, historical context because I did not grow up in the period. But it was very. I mean, it all came across, even to me, and it was very cool. Like I don't know, Don DeLillo, he writes like good sentences that you could like sort of strip the rest of the novel away, and it's just like that sentence, and it's like it still hits amazingly hard. And that's what I'll say about that. Demian by Herman Hesse. is a book that is up its own ass, so it goes in D tier. Demian is about a boy in Germany he's not like the other guys in the sense that he's actually a genius and he's like super sage and self-aware, and the cover of the book is a little egg breaking because he's coming out of the dome of what we perceive as reality, and he's turning into he's elevating into a higher state of being. And I thought this book was up its own ass, and it didn't really have anything to say, and very, very, very pretentious and self-important. Like at the end, he's like talking about him and the other like spiritually elevated guy. They're talking about, we're gonna, once the World War II is over, we're gonna elevate humanity and we're gonna bring everyone together and we're gonna be the ones to lead people with our amazing self-awareness. And it was really lame, very lame. It was very, I don't know, not a fan. Travels with Charlie in Search of America is a Steinbeck book. I think this is one of the two non-fictions, or I guess you could also include Junkie in that. Never mind, I read 4 because as you'll see that. Never mind. Anyway, this is Travels with Charlie in Search of America. This is Steinbeck's travel book that he wrote when he was traveling through America, and he's just sort of writing the things that he sees and trying to make observations about the states as he passed through them and the state of the country. And honestly, it's kind of like all over the place, and there's kind of no point to it. But it's like, it's chill. He's just like in his car. He's going with his dog, and he's like a 60-year-old man. So nothing he does is really like out of this world crazy. But it's just sort of like funny thinking about this like oldish guy just chilling in his car and like writing with his little typewriter out of the back of his van. I don't know, it was chill. It was it was a pleasant thing that I read. Here we have The Nowhere Child by I don't even know. And this was a book that I read I went on a vacation with my family, and this was in the Airbnb apartment that we stayed in, and I challenged myself to read this in the 5 or 7 days that we were in the city, and I was able to do it, which I'm very proud of myself for. Anyway, this book is nothing special really. It's just a drama, like a dramatic like action mystery story, and it's just like it was good for passing the time. I remember one of the characters' deaths, like the sheriff dies, and I remember reading that and being sort of like surprised by that moment, even though it was kind of a cheap death, if I remember it correctly. Next we have Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen, and this is also going to be in my top books of the year. And Jonathan Franzen, in this book, writes about a family over mostly one day, 2 days before Christmas. And he writes about the 23rd, and it's each of the family members just sort of going off and doing their own thing, and getting into their own little private dramas and secrets that they're keeping from everyone else. And it's all relatively low stakes, but he gets very in-depth into each character, and you really feel like you get to know each person's insecurities, like, very, very well, and it's very relatable, and everyone is it feels like everyone's like, you really get into the interiority of it all, and you get to feel like you know, you felt seen as you read it. Like, okay, okay, I'm not the only guy who feels like a weirdo. So that was it was a cool book. Um, really like that one. And that would actually probably go. I'm gonna probably go the top book I read, Crossroads. Let me see if there's a way to add a row below. Perfect. And let's call this one. Let's add a color. Is there a way to? Okay. Let's make this the other red tier because it's hell. We'll call this one fuck. Yeah. So I designate these last two. I mean, it just happened to work out that way, but this is the tier for the worst books I read this year. They were just terrible. Number 1 is Verity by Colleen Hoover. And I read this book because I saw that it was on the digital library app that I have on my phone. And I thought to myself, before I, dog on Colleen Hoover like everyone else does, I should give one of her books a try and see for myself if it's actually quite as bad as everyone's making it out to be. And the answer is yes, it is quite as bad, if not worse. It's very bad. It's about I'm not even gonna bother because it's just pointless. It's just a really stupid story. There's like a story within a story, and the frame is like very stupid, and it's just like a way to like shoehorn in these just like the majority of the sex in the novel. And that's Colleen Hoover's trick, really, just sex, and that's what has the readers turning those pages. And it worked on me. I mean, I'm a lowly human, and so it was just terrible. The writing was bad, the characters were lame, and there was a really, 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 really stupid plot twist at the end that is too convoluted to get into the mechanics of, but you can just trust me when I say that it was terrible. And next we have Jennette McCurdy's autobiography, I'm Happy My Mother Died. And I will say that I'm not happy that I read her book. Like it tells us like way too much for like no reason. Like she talks about her exes. There's like 2 or 3 separate exes. Well, I mean, they have almost nothing to do with the relationship between her and her deceased mother. So, I don't know, it all felt just not really written very well. Very like sort of elementary language. I don't know, it's very stupid. I mean, it has an eye-catching title, and I guess that's why I read it. And I also read it because it was very popular earlier this year, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know. I sort of have this idea that I should at least read like a handful of the popular books just so I'm like in tune with like what's currently going on. But I don't know why I decided to read these 2 of all things. I don't know. I'm sure there's good things like that. What's that one? A Beautiful Life. That looks pretty good. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching my hour-long tier list. If you made it this far to listen to me ramble, which I expect no one will, thank you if you have. And stay tuned, stay on the lookout for the 2024 tier list of books I read for this current year. Also, I have currently playing in my head the idea of doing 2023 all the movies I watched, which that would be crazy. That would be a lot of movies, but that could be fun. That could be a good way to kill like 2 or 3 hours. Anyways, thank you for watching. Bye.